Okay, everybody's got a fucking podcast. I mean, we have a podcast, so obviously anyone can do it.
Wait, this is a podcast?
Are you recording right now?
Technical difficulties.
No, you don't have to say anything. I'm gonna edit it out.
Technical difficulties.
Okay.
I put mayonnaise on a pickle.
It was not the best, but it might have been the worst.
Do my feet? I mean, my feet stink, right?
Yeah. Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Jason, this is your month. It's podcast number 2. Explain to me your choice.
So I watched this with my brother a lot growing up. We were both edgelords at slightly different points of time. But
Explain to me edgelords.
like we, all the Johnny Depp and the dark gothic look and everything's bloody.
Oh, okay,
and
sure.
It's like we wouldn't watch a musical, but we would watch Sweeney Todd, which is a musical. But because it was dark and broody and had murder in it, we were edgelords because that's cool because people die. And that was the criteria.
Gotcha.
So this came out in 2007. So that kind of puts it in the sweet spot of where me and him were edgelords. That's what we were about.
Yeah.
But yeah, just watched a lot growing up. We liked the songs and stuff. We were big Johnny Depp fanboys in general. So getting to see him do that was just really cool and fun to see. So
Johnny Depp is fun.
it was on repeat a lot.
Well, cool. Know a little bit about that then.
Yeah.
Quick plot through bullets. Sweeney Todd's fresh out of jail / escape from jail / off the Pirates of the Caribbean ship with evil intentions. Meets Mrs. Lovett, tells him her meat pies suck and you can have the place upstairs. Here are your razors, and by the way, I'm down to fuck. Sailor Anthony that helps Sweeney sees Sweeney's daughter Joanna in the window. The judge threatens him and he leaves singing. Perfectly normal public shaving contest. Pirelli, not happy with the results, comes to Todd and Todd kills him. Judge orders a child dead and then goes for a shave so he can marry Joanna. Todd gets a chance to kill, but Anthony barges in and ruins it. Him and Joanna have a plan to run away together. Lovett and Todd think up their human meat pie business plan. Business booms. Joanna and Anthony's plan is foiled. Lovett reminds Todd constantly she is still very down to fuck. Todd and Anthony have a plan to get Joanna out. Toby is suspicious, so Lovett locks him in the bakery. Anthony rescues Joanna and gives the psych ward guy to the other patients. Toby puts it all together and Beetle gets his. Lovett and Todd can't find Toby. Anthony tells Joanna to hide in Todd's shop. Homeless lady comes a snooping. Joanna hides. Homeless lady gets it as Turpin arrives. He gets got. Joanna almost gets got. Todd goes to investigate Lovett's scream. Todd puts it all together, throws Lovett in the oven, mourns his wife. Toby gets Todd. The end. Excuse me. My quick likes and dislikes here. I just put them into one paragraph. Not a lot to say. It's all kind of boiled into one. Is just why I'm,
Sure.
But the end was better than 90% of it to me. Not a big musical singing guy for movies, so there's a bit of annoyance a good bit of the way through for me. But you take the story and take it apart from the singing, and I think I'm a big fan. The story was good. I love some dark plot type stuff. Evil Barber, that works. But yeah, singing's a real bummer. But I thought the end was awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, heard that. So yeah, I mean, obviously what I really liked about it is going to be the singing aspect of it. I definitely don't mind this type of, format where it's kind of the theatrical musical kind of thing there. So the overall tone with it kind of being this really, dark London Gothic kind of, tone throughout all of it. We have our revenge plot, we have love, we have a lot of intricate overlapping character stories that are going throughout this. And I feel like all of that just really lands well. And I know, in comparison to the actual musical, the theatrical or the the play, that one is has a lot more detail and kind of fleshes out, I think, Anthony and Joanna's story quite a bit more, because I know most of Joanna's lines and songs are cut for the movie. So there is a little bit more, I think, of that complete narrative that gets told, but a lot of that is still going to be through the songs. But obviously, for screen time and for shooting, you're going to cut that down a bit.
Sure.
But I really did enjoy the story. I really loved the songs. I love Johnny Depp. I always forget Tim Burton's wife's name. Whatever Carter. Hannah something Carter.
Oh, is that the one that plays?
Love it, yeah.
Okay.
But he likes to kill her off whenever she's in his movies. So I always think that's nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought all of it was just a really like well orchestrated thing. There's some bits in the middle that kind of I think lean on the realm of tedium for me. But I think all the characters are extremely interesting. All the songs, go really well together. And that the overall narrative that goes throughout this is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, as far as things I don't like, this is buried enough in my nostalgia that I just have the glasses on all day, so I can't really point out anything I don't care for it at this point.
Sure.
I love being able to watch through this and go through this, any day of the week. So
We all have those movies that can do no wrong.
Right.
So, as far as bad trailer, I just have a commercial for Ye Olde Bakery and Barbershop.
Yep. So I said obviously it has to be about the pie shop, and it's kind of like a rags to riches or like a bringing the business up kind of thing, So it's like it starts off at shitty. Todd comes in, Toby comes in. They get a little bit busier. Business starts booming, and then it's much more successful. And then the fantasy sequence that Lovett has is like their end perfect life kind of thing with them going on vacation after the business succeeds without them.
Yep. Bad summaries. I had 3 of them. Pirates of the Caribbean takes an unexpected turn. Borat takes an unexpected turn. Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah.
And I said husband kills wife over love for cannibalism.
Yep.
So
Those are pretty good. I had support for local businesses grow due to collaborative efforts between shops. Barbershop and the meat pie thing and everything there. And then also local dry cleaner profits double after new barbershop opens up because Todd was getting nothing but blood all over his shirts, and somebody had to clean that out.
yeah. Bad casting. I said Travolta as Sweeney Todd
Ooh, that would be something.
and Reese Witherspoon as Mrs. Lovett, because that just I don't think it works. I think she's too like bubbly,
Yeah.
So.
No, it's good. I kind of struggle with casting for this one because of the nostalgia glasses. I kind of get stuck on these, so I just have to make him kind of weird. So Mini-Me is Toby.
Sure.
Just as something kind of funny and odd and a little bit more of a gimmick to make a comedy rather than, kind of a serious thing there.
Makes a little more sense that he's drinking gin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, what would be interesting is a Nicolas Cage as Sweeney Todd, but like the trying way too hard that it's like really cringy rather than like just being a normal dark brooding person.
Yeah. If we go into notes, so I mean we can go. Do you want to go discussion or you want to do the blow through?
We can do the discussion. I mean, it's a musical, so a lot of it is just the musical pieces and whatnot.
Sure. My first note was just, of course, there's a boat, like Johnny Depp, pirates. Like, this is right in that era, so it just makes sense. And I love Mrs. Lovett in the beginnings, just singing about, these are the worst pies in London. She's like, my pies suck, but...
There's cat in this one.
I got to keep making them because, I got to keep up the expectation that these are the worst pies in London. I mean, what do I do? Somebody walks in, they're like, this pie's good. I'm like, oh, fuck, right?
These are no longer the worst pies in London. They're like the second worst, and that's not really a tagline.
Right.
Got to keep that marketing straight.
So, kind of a fucked up business model there, but yeah.
For sure. Yeah, no, I kind of like the complete honesty. Be like, yeah, these are shit, but what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
I think that was just kind of the expectations. Like, well, I got the room. I've got all the stuff. What else am I going to do all day?
Right.
So, I respect it.
You going?
Let's talk about the songs in general, which you'll hate. Is there one song out of this that you're like, this is at least the best song or the song you enjoyed the most throughout this?
If I had to say, I would have liked to see the one song turn into like an actual full-length song where it's just kind of Sweeney Todd's like thing he mutters to himself with the whole like I can't remember how it goes. The town's a pit of shit.
Oh yeah,
there's the other people in it.
Yeah,
however it goes.
There's a hole in the world with a great black pit. Yeah,
yes,
that one.
You go.
Yeah.
That's probably. Yeah, that's probably about it.
Okay.
I love the awkwardness of Beetle being like,
Like, hey, you look like shit. My
"Hey, you
guy.
look like shit," but he had to like sing like, "Do you think I could say something, my lord?"
If you do not mind, Lord. You're like, yeah, it's like, just get out with it, my guy. But also, yeah, just the being able to talk shit to your boss. Be like, you got some powder on your shirt there. You got some stubble going on. He's like looking at himself in the mirror. He's like, stubble, you
How
shit.
else do I say this? You're old and you shouldn't be marrying the child.
Okay, listen, it was a different time. He didn't have anything else going on, so he was like,
She was reluctant. Like, no shit.
yeah. Well, especially in the movie, she's 16. I think in like the actual like play, that she's an adult at least, but in this, she was 1 year old when Todd got sent away, and then 15 years had passed, so she'd be 16 in the movie.
All right.
But yeah, as far as my favorite, Pretty Women's the one that Todd and the judge sing together.
Yeah.
Something about like the two people singing different parts of a song and then it eventually meets up together.
A lot of that in this movie.
I really enjoy that. I don't know if it's just some chorus effect that happens with the two people singing together that hits the brain boner in my head. But
Well, I mean, musically it is pleasing.
yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying. Let me be clear here. I'm not saying I don't like music.
yes, but this isn't
When
your
my
genre
music-
of movie consumption, and that's understandable.
I think of music in movies like you hear actresses talk about nudity. It's like if it moves the story along.
As long as it moves the story along.
It's like, but no, I don't like just the constant like singing breaks.
Sure.
Like when they look for Toby near the end,
Mm-hmm.
and then Mrs. Lovett is all of a sudden like she just sings like Toby, where are you, dear?
Mm-hmm.
And there's no song involved. She just for some reason sings that part. It was bizarre to me.
Yeah.
But-
Well, and she also goes back to the song that Toby was singing there too, where it's the
Yes.
nothing's gonna harm you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but with a darker tone.
Yeah. Little spooky there. But that song is actually my favorite, where it's Toby mostly singing it. When he was talking to Miss Lovett and kind of expressing his concerns about Todd or whatever. That kid just had a really nice voice, and I kind of really like that song. But there's a line in there that it's demons will charm you with a smile for a while, and that's just a line that's like lived rent free in my head for a decade. Just comes up randomly, and I get stuck on it, but
Sure.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say that song and Pretty Women, those two for sure are my favorites out of this. But the first one we get out the gate, No Place Like London.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's dynamite.
Yeah. I like that Anthony gets his life threatened by the judge, so he goes outside his house and sings loudly about how he's going to steal the very person he was told not to look at for fear of his life.
Yep.
That's the rules. If we have movie rules, we probably have musical rules, right? And so if you sing and you don't want people to hear you, they just can't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a very well thought out plan. Be like, just start you. What was the line he said to him? He was like, "You gandered at her." When he got that, I was like, "This is so uncomfortable." As he's like tracing the spines of all of his porn books that he's got in his office, I was like, "This is so odd." He's like the talking about all the the whores from across the world, and now he has drawings of
You
them
know
all.
what? Bad casting for this one. Connery as Turpin. Yeah.
Oh, poor.
Look at my whore books.
Yes, it's really just Bon Sean. That would be really good. No, I really loved Alan Rickman in this.
Of course, he wouldn't have had to negotiate. He wouldn't have had to. Connery wouldn't have felt inadequate for the young person he was marrying. He'd have just been like, we're getting married now.
Yeah.
Oh.
For sure. How do you kind of feel about the plot in general? I really enjoy these revenge for not kind of things, especially when you have all these intertwining stories. The whole focus was to kill Turpin, get your wife, get your kid, move forward kind of thing. And obviously, Todd comes back, everything's in ruin, but he can still get to Turpin and he can still get Joanna.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel, I guess, about that overall plot structure where it's like you do all these things and then by the end of it, like it's for naught, like he's our main character but he still dies. We don't really get any of that reconciliation.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's almost like the story's teaching you a lesson about revenge, right? Because you go out and you have all these intentions and then, things start going your way, and I guess really because of their success, right, with Lovett, they kind of get distracted from the main point. Whereas he's never really distracted. Like, she has her little fantasy scene, and he's just kind of sitting there, like in whatever outfit, just kind of like, I don't care what you're saying right now to me.
Very dejected because that's not where he wants to be. That's not the future.
And
he
like,
envisions.
Down to fuck, and he's just like, I could literally like care less. And so whereas he thinks he's using her this whole movie, it turns out in the end, she's using him more or less.
Yeah.
And so he throws her in the oven, and then and in all this he's distracted and he doesn't scope out his surroundings. All of a sudden he killed his wife.
Yeah.
Right? And so then he's sitting there, and then he almost kills his daughter.
Yeah. And he doesn't even
doesn't
recognize her, which I think is sad because, she has to look so much like her.
Right.
So it's kind of but he made mention specifically to Miss Lovett earlier about like, do you even remember what she looks like? Like, tell me about her. And 15 years is a long time to be away from someone. So I can kind of let it slide because of that. But you'd think almost that moment of clarity would have come looking at her, but maybe it's because she didn't have the blonde hair falling down. That
well, I mean, Anthony's like, hey, no one will recognize you.
Yeah.
And he's got the hat and everything.
He was right.
So it's almost like the movie's telling you, like, hey, revenge. Maybe, oh my God, fucking dog. Revenge maybe is not what you should pursue, right? Yeah.
Everyone loses in revenge plots like that.
Typically, yeah. I think it's, I think the plot's very good.
Yeah.
Which I think was part of that question.
Yeah.
As well. But
yeah, just how do you think those kind of like revenge for naught, it's like you have all this elaborate steps, all these things that you do throughout the story, but then, your revenge doesn't really have a meaningful impact by the end of it because you don't get that reconciliation as the main character enacting the revenge kind of thing. And I will say, I want to bring up just one point before I forget about it. In the ending sequence, I think you had mentioned where it seemed like Todd wasn't really checking his surroundings when Todd was coming up behind him Toby was coming up behind him to kill him.
That I felt I have a different idea on that. But yeah,
that's what I wanted to talk about, where it seemed like intentional, where like he raised his neck up a little bit, like he was aware of and accepting of the death there.
Yes, to be clear, when I said he wasn't checking his surroundings, it was your wife was standing right in front of you from 15 years ago.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Don't look into that anymore. You almost killed your daughter. You're not really paying attention to the things that are going on around you. You're so
there's that cloud of revenge,
this bloodlust.
Yeah,
this guy's
clouded
got, right?
everything.
And so that's what I was getting at. Yes, when Toby killed him, like he definitely heard him behind him, and he's like, I killed my wife. What's the point?
Yeah.
Anthony hasn't showed up yet with my daughter, but she did. But I don't know.
I don't think he valued it at that point, though.
Right.
You know
I guess
what I mean?
To me, it was like, how did he not put the thing together in his mind where it's like, Anthony's coming with my daughter. Is there no chance that my daughter hid in the case that when the weird looking lady came in who turns out to be my wife, and now I'm sad that I killed her?
Yeah.
I feel like those pieces could have been put together, maybe.
And maybe in the actual play that's a little bit cleaner brought together, because we never even really see the confirmation or reconciliation that comes after the fact. Sure. So once Todd is dead, we don't really see what comes out after that. The story is over with Todd. He's our main character, but do Joanna and Anthony live on happily ever after?
Right.
With Toby was born in a workhouse and worked under Pirelli, and then was pretty much adopted by Miss Lovett. So he doesn't have a life. He doesn't have a family or a home or anything at this point. So he's going back to the workhouse.
I had a theory.
Okay.
Toby. Now I know it's harder for children back in these, in these older times, right?
Because of scurvy or whatever.
Well, I just meant, adults taking you seriously and whatnot.
Sure.
So maybe Toby, takes the remaining bodies and grinds them up, because his meat pie business is booming. And maybe he just makes the remainder of meat pies that he can make, and runs the business. And, oh, where's Mrs. Lovett, young chap?
Yep.
And he's like, oh, she's on holiday or some shit like that, right?
Yeah.
And he just keeps selling the pies, and he runs the business till he's out of meat. And then he just,
Well,
takes
the
the
business would
savings.
be doing better off then, so he'd be able to start buying regular meat.
Well, okay, he could go maintain.
Go legitimate.
Yeah, maybe he does go legit. And, okay, yeah, we'll change it up. Yeah, he goes legit. And then people keep asking, and he's just like, oh, she's fallen ill. She's gone to visit her mother in Croatia or something.
She's retired by the sea.
Retired by the sea with Mr. Todd. Yeah. So maybe he just,
So it's coming back to me now. One of the things I think I do remember reading was that in the play, is that after all of that happens, that Toby is still in shock and is found like grinding the meat down there by Anthony and Joanna once Anthony comes back. I don't remember what happens after that as far as what they do with their lives, but I think I do remember reading that is kind of how that after sequence went.
Okay.
So he wouldn't have been able to hide it from them at least.
Sure. I do like I think when you end killing the main character, this person who in fairness has lost sight of everything that he did value.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a fantastic way to end the movie. I mean, I like chaos. That's what life is, really.
Oh, yeah.
It's chaos, right? Nothing ever goes according to plan, per se, right?
Yeah,
So I think that's always a fantastic way to end a movie.
for sure.
My next note was, I challenge you to a shave off? Question mark?
I'll shave right now. Swear to God. I don't know if I could use a razor though. I've never used like a straight razor to shave.
No,
so
I wouldn't.
I'd be nervous.
I would not.
Yeah.
And then the other note that would be next was, what are the chances the guy that brought Sweeney Todd to London falls for his estranged daughter? Also, daughter, very trusting. Dude could be a psycho, but he's handsome and he keeps looking at me through the window, and threats don't deter him. Sounds like a stalker, but we don't know what those are yet, so I love you.
Yeah. Stranger danger wasn't really a thing yet, and I think the love at first sight and a little bit of escapism involved with that was still relevant in the way they tell a lot of stories from then.
Well, and that's a musical rule.
Yeah, that's
Love
fair
at
too.
first sight.
Yeah, it's got to be love at first sight. But what I do think is interesting is with part of the stuff that is cut out for Joanna in the actual like play, it's more so like Joanna is very confident that running away with Anthony is not the fix to her problems. So she has a little bit more of like a spine and character of just I'm going to go run away with the pretty boy kind of thing. And it's more of this is not a magic fix-it button kind of thing. So I hate that is something that kind of gets lost out because it just makes her kind of this voiceless, baseless character and just like a trophy kind of thing for Anthony to have something to do for a while. And for, pretty much for Todd to ignore completely because it hardly ever comes up in any way that meaningfully matters. But,
well, I think, I don't think it's completely lost just because, I mean, there is that point. I mean, most of the way it's mostly lost for sure. But just that, they kind of sprinkle it in, they kind of like throw it in there like, oh yeah, we forgot. Where she's talking to Anthony right before he goes, okay, I'm going to go get the carriage or whatever. And, she's like, oh, the nightmares never go away. And like, I don't know. Now that I don't have the context you have, so not trying to talk like I'm
No, you're right. They did have kind of that exchange where he's talking about like the ghosts and shadows, leaving us or whatever. And she's like, they don't go away. They don't just disappear.
Yes. So when you say this isn't a fic, that goes off my mind. Like, oh, there's the little connection. But yeah, for the most part.
Yeah. But it just seemed like again, I didn't go through like the play to see, how that's fleshed out. So I don't know, to what extent we really lose that. But just that in reading some of the things that was specifically called out, it did feel like there was much more of a meaningful character behind her for that story that we just didn't get to see quite as much of.
Sure.
So.
All right. Well, I got how creepy of a concept. I'll keep her till she grows up and I'll marry her. not what was said, but the basic concept's pretty much there.
Yeah.
I love that he was surprised about her being reluctant, as we talked about. And I love that the ugliest dude in town is like, hey, you're looking a little rough. So maybe you should work on that, and the kid will want to marry you, which isn't a great
whatever
sentence.
his name is. He's like
Beetle.
Whatever his actor's name is like
Sure.
is like such a like enemy villain like looking type of guy.
Yeah.
Like I hate to say that just because he just naturally like doesn't look good. But like just I feel like anything he could appear in, as long as you give him like a mildly menacing attire, he just looks like a shit villain kind of thing. And I like that you can have like a natural looking affinity to just look like you should be like a pseudo villain or like a henchman.
Pays well.
It's gotta. But I do just enjoy like how because that's kind of just the way he looks, is that maybe it helps lean into those types of characters more. Just because the way he acts, it just feels very gross and like laced in oil, and it's just a really odd, peculiar thing. But it was really fun just watching him like do any of his scenes, just because they felt inherently villainous, and then everything he did was very villainous.
Yeah.
It worked really well.
What are you talking about? He loves to do for his friends and neighbors.
Oh, sure. Just poison slipping through his tongue as you say and all that.
Yeah. Also, if you see a guy singing and dancing with a meat cleaver inside of a food establishment, call someone.
Call somebody. Stop. Get him. I gotta say though, so with this being a Tim Burton film, this was extremely dark and black and gray color palette wise compared to a lot of the other stuff he does. But I really do appreciate once we get to there's two sequences where they actually bother to have like regular color, I guess. So we have the flashback that Todd does back to him and his wife and his daughter, and that seemed like it was very like this like blooming, really bright, almost like pastel color palette. Everything was very pretty. Life was still good at the time. So I really like the way that we do that high contrast of, everything is shit now. The world itself is shit, not just Todd, but the world itself is shit because of, what's now different from the past when everything was bright and beautiful. So I love just that color palette and just that framing in general. That's different between those two. Yeah. And then when it's Miss Lovett's fantasy about the future, I think that it's the same thing but in a different way. We get those like classic Tim Burton colors and contrast going on. And I think that really works well to kind of both her warped perception and understanding of what a good future is going to look like, whereas what Todd had was real, and we had more realistic lighting and colors in his flashback of what was good. And then Miss Lovett's, kind of looking ahead to what the future could be in kind of that fantasy sequence. It's not that. It's these like kind of weird warped colors. There's still kind of like that darker tone to it. Obviously, Todd is not having a fun time. So I kind of took it two ways of her warped perception is, being mirrored by that color palette just being kind of off and not natural, as well as it being not the future that Todd wants. So because there's that clash of the perfect world and then it not being a future Todd wants, that it's their combination that's kind of causing that color differentiation. And that's, reading too much into it. But that's the thought that kind of carries me through that and makes me really enjoy, kind of seeing those two scenes that are just abnormally colorful compared to everything else. And they're all the past or the future because everything now is shit. Yeah. And we can only look forward to better things or think back on when things were good. And I kind of like that thought.
Well, off of that note, I have one that I feel like pretty much fits.
Sure.
So, take you on a little ride here, but I
I'll
promise it's getting back to that point.
Sure.
So logistically, I don't know how many people you can kill without arousing some suspicion. Businesses are often based on referrals, word of mouth, and if those mouths are being eaten, especially back in that time, right?
Yep.
You don't have advertising really, unless you could stand outside your shop and like, hey, come get your haircut in here.
Yeah. I don't know. I think kicking Pirelli's ass in the beginning was all that advertisement, right?
And I said, for example, no one would miss that Pirelli dude. Miss is probably a strong word, but wouldn't they wonder? Like, hey, whatever happened to that goofy fuck with the brightly colored clothes that would stand out, by the way, because everyone more or less was done up to look dead in this movie.
And the only guy with an Italian accent.
But, he'd like break out into song in public and have random shaving competitions, and we all watched for some reason, which was weird because that's not really a thing. But yeah, he sold his own piss, and he made that kid working for him in the wig peddle it. It seems like ever since that weird depressed guy got into town and beat him in the shaving competition, everyone's been singing a lot. But yeah, the kid works for the meat pie lady that totally wants to bone the sad guy. And, no one bought her pies before, but now that depressed guy's working for her, everyone's singing, and some of my friends have gone missing, and her pies are the bomb. Probably unrelated. Anyway, they're hanging a kid in the middle of town square today. You want to go?
Oh, that poor kid. Oh, that is too good.
So, yeah.
No, that's a good point. Last major one I had was kind of just a thought that we touched on a little bit here, but is everybody in this movie a villain? So we got Judge Turpin. Obviously, he's very corrupt. He's doing bad things. He already sent Todd away so he could go try and get with his wife, which seemingly he raped her at that party. That's what I was picking up on.
The message I got,
right?
yeah.
So he seemingly rapes Todd's wife. She tries to poison herself unsuccessfully, and is kind of a crazy person, which, a little bit of a villain. You're not making yourself able-bodied to take care of your 1-year-old child.
If we could logistically go into that.
Sure.
Was Turpin just so, was he encapsulated with beauty, and when she ruined herself with arsenic, was he just no longer interested?
Well,
was there nothing to do with her? Why is...
So she took the arsenic, but it messed up her brain, right? So that's what pretty much caused her mental disorders and stuff. So the personality we pretty much see of the old woman is what the aftermath was of, because she was bedridden, wouldn't talk, do anything for a couple of months, they said, after she took the arsenic.
Okay.
And then the mental disorder just really kicked in with whatever it did to her brain after taking it. So you can't be married to a crazy lady. So he likely sent her away to the Fogs Asylum for a while, and then maybe they got rid of her at some point. So she would have been just the most damaged person, after a couple of years.
So she gave Turpin a boner, and then once she was ugly, he didn't care about her anymore.
Pretty much. Well, I think it was more of a
shallow.
He couldn't be seen with her.
Sure.
And I'm sure once rumors started to spread around, be like, oh yeah, he's got an invalid at home that he bangs sometimes, and also their daughter.
Yeah.
It probably just looks bad rather than the loving Judge Turpin took in the poor baby child of this woman who went crazy.
And also he's going to bang her now.
And he's going to bang her now, because this is London. That's how we do London, baby.
Shall we do it in London?
Shall we do it in London? From London with love and mild incest. But yeah. So, yeah, Turpin's garbage. I feel a little bit that I think, was it Lucy was the wife's name?
I think so.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
I kind of blame her a little bit, not being there for your kid and just saying hey, this guy who's willing to rape me, yeah, that's good enough to raise my kid. There was a judgment call made at some point there, even though she was, damaged beyond repair at that point. It was a bad place to be in.
Yeah.
Beetle obviously sucks. Love it. Manipulative, willing to cook people, murder people, all just for her own personal success and trying to manipulate Todd into whatever she wanted.
Well, just meat these days, it's hard to get.
It is hard to get by. That's why she was cooking cats.
Yeah.
Which I have to imagine.
Well, I thought that was her competitor.
Huh?
I thought that was her competitor. It was cooking cats.
Well, where else was she getting the meat?
I thought it was just bad meat.
Maybe.
I don't know. After this, you want to go get some pussy pie?
I would love some pussy pie.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Todd obviously originally started off as a understandable revenge plot, and then once Lovett kind of got the hooks into him, that's when he started aimlessly killing. Right?
Yes.
It was without focus, and I feel like that's where it started to be where Todd became a villain. I feel like if he could have been loyal to the revenge plot, just getting Joanna and figuring something out from there, that would have been enough to say he was not a villain in this, I guess, but just taking his revenge and getting his family back. But as soon as he started just killing random people just for what? Just to keep the charade going and making it a little bit easier to get the judge later. I just feel like he lost sight of why he was there, and probably why he ended up being a little dejected and Lovett's fantasy. But Anthony, also maybe a little bit of a villain because he just finds this hot girl in the window and is singing at her and is like, hey, let's get out of here. I'm going to kidnap you a little bit and we're going to run away together and they'll never find us. So really the only two innocent people are Toby and Joanna.
And even Toby turns in a little bit of a murderer.
Well, he had to.
Sure.
He had to take care of Todd because he was already getting, concerned and,
Yeah.
his alarm bells were going off.
Yeah. He has to do a despicable act.
Yeah. I guess it is shameful that, we have to make the kid do a thing that's bad. And,
Sure.
that's the conclusion. And that's why I think it's a little bit more impactful that, in the play they say, Anthony and Joanna found him and he's just, in shock, still grinding the meat and stuff.
Yeah.
Because, children in shock is just a thing that, they can't process that information. So he's going to a task that keeps his brain moving, his body moving, and, the damage is done there. So, does that turn him into Sweeney Todd V2? A couple years down the line, what's that impact? But
Yeah. No, I would say everyone is definitely a villain. Todd might have already been a villain despite his justified revenge plot. He remember when he's like, hey, Beetle hasn't come yet. He's bitching to Lovett about
it's
where
it's
is she?
Tuesday. He said he'd be here by weeks out.
Yeah. And she said oh, well, Anthony's the throat to slit, if you're really hurting for some whatever, however she does it, right? So it seems like he's just got kind of the thirst for blood, so that maybe his years in prison and the yearning for revenge has maybe just turned him into a bit of a psycho in general.
Yeah. Let's talk about the prison system. Let's not talk about the prison system.
No, it's not. I'm not qualified at all.
Oh, 100%. I'm not either.
Yeah. No, totally. I think he has some good questions, and if I read through the rest of my notes, we're just kind of being redundant a little bit.
Yeah.
Are there any more that I liked that were funny? Not really. Oh, there's a sequence where he just kills the hobo lady in a flash, kind of comical. Looked like his wife a little. Possible twist coming, which I was very proud of myself for getting right.
Mm-hmm.
I said he finally gets his man because he kills Turpin. And then 3 comments in a row. Oh shit, he's about to kill his daughter. Oh shit, I guessed the wife thing right. Oh shit, he threw her in the furnace. Baller move.
Man, was that not the coolest thing, though?
Yeah. And then it's all 3 family members were in the same room at one point. Very interesting. And then the next note was, oh shit, Toby's a G. And then you kind of covered it, we have the question of, do the daughter and the dopey ship captain live happily ever after? And then kind of unsatisfactory end for Todd. He killed his man. Of course, he finds out he was betrayed all along. He thought he was the one using her, but he was being used. Never got to see his daughter knowingly.
Mm-hmm.
And he killed his wife. So, yeah, we talked about how, that whole plot concept. So, yeah, I mean, unless there's anything else you want to cover, I think we kind of...
We definitely got
did
to
it.
with my discussion points, so
Yeah.
it was a good time.
Well, that's cool. Any closing comments? Concerns?
Would say that there's another musical called The Repo Man.
Okay.
It's a rock opera kind of thing. It is much worse than this, but it is one I still like. And I may make you watch it, maybe not for the pod, because I don't think it's good enough for a pod. But it is one that I watched a long time ago, and I was like, okay, this is just odd enough that it's kind of cool, but it is very musically and really cringy throughout. Sure. So I might try to trick you into watching that at some point.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, watching. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Twitter, Instagram. Emails, consequences, hotline, yahoo.com. Questions, concerns, insults, whatever you want. Thank you. Bye.